Today we're talking about avionic modification and installations in aircraft. We're going to look at it step by step. We're going to go over prep, open up, installation, close up, and ops checks. During the prep phase, we want to first make sure that we have all the paperwork we need to do the installation. Whether it's a service bulletin, STC, engineering order, whatever our paperwork is it complete and we can finish the install with the paperwork we have, and does that paperwork apply to the aircraft we want to do the installation on? The next thing we need to look at is our kit. Is our kit complete? Are all the pieces there for our complete install? We want to pay attention to little things that sometimes do not come in the kit, like hardware, clamps, things of that nature. If they don't come in the kit, make sure you have them in free stock or check with supply. We don't want to get to a work stoppage because of a bolt. Next, we want to look at tooling. Do we have all the tools we have? Not just the basic tools, but are there any special dies or crimpers that are called for during the installation? We should be able to find this information in our technical order. Next thing we need to weigh is access. What do we need to open up to complete the installation of the modification? And lastly, real estate. Aircraft, however big, seem to get small during avionics installation, and so you want to try to avoid all your workers ending up at the same point at the same time. And we'll go more into this a little bit later. So when we decide what we need to open up and we begin, we want to make sure we access all the areas needed for our installation. We don't want to go halfway and have to open up some more. During this removal of equipment to get where we need to be, are there things that we could leave in place and work around? Let's say there's just a single wire ran behind a piece of equipment. It may be more advantageous to leave that equipment in place and route your wire as opposed to removing it. Now, if you have a bundle or a lot of work in an area and some equipment's in your way, most of the time it's more advantageous to remove that, do your work, and put it back, because it'll cause you more time trying to work around that. Another consideration to keep in mind is when you remove equipment and put it back, you've got to perform ops checks. How complex is the ops check? And make sure you have the equipment needed to perform the required functional check. And of course, document. Next, we're ready for installation. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we run harnesses. We don't want to do this wire by wire. Organize your harnesses the best you can outside before bringing them in the aircraft and begin your routing. You also want to begin at a central point, or the focus of your install, wherever your system is. So you want to climb the biggest hill first. If you're working with a crew, you want to manage your workflow. You want to make sure that you're not going to end up with everybody needing in the same area at the same time. So it takes a lot of pre-planning and guidance. Another trick that I like to use is if I have a junction box or a relay panel that can be worked on the bench. I'll usually use those during times when there is a conflict, because sometimes it can't be avoided. So if two guys need in the same area, a guy can step out and he can work on his junction box or do some bench work until that area is freed up. Next, we want to make sure that all the wires are ran before completion, before termination. By the time we get to termination, if we don't run anything, a lot of times we can end up reworking an area. Let's say we try to terminate an area and someone from a different system ends up running more wires to you. Now you've got to redo that work. Also, if the other end isn't completely ran and hasn't been checked, what can happen is we have wire too short, and then you got to remove the pin, rerun the wire, re-terminate it. Again, we want to avoid doing double work. When we get done, we want to ring out our work, and we also want to ring out any prefab harnesses that came in the system. It's always best to ring the system from all the way from the front to the back, all the way through any bulkhead fittings or connectors that you have. That way you ensure that the system is installed correctly. And of course, document. Make sure everything that you do is documented. Now we're ready for close-up and ops checks. We want to make sure that all our new systems or systems that have been affected by the modification usually require functional checks, while items that were just removed for the installation can usually be checked through operational checks. And of course, we want to complete our documentation. So if we follow the simple guidelines by planning properly, opening up only the areas that we need, installing in the different processes one step at a time and working our way out of the aircraft, close up and perform the right ops checks, we can have a successful installation of our avionics modification.